Hey, what's up, y'all, and welcome to Life According to Cree, the podcast. As always, I am your host, Cree Cole, and I got a special episode for you all tonight. For those of you who don't know me, for those of you who know me, we're gonna catch up. But the first thing I want to do is jump into this song of the week. Y'all know how I love my song of the week, and I'm excited. So y'all bear with me. I'm a little hyped, but it's Kevin Campbell. I'm ready, and I know this has always been a love song to that dude, that chick, but listen to the words. Stay with me. I am the fool you call me. Cause I'll be standing waiting to hear you say to me. I'm ready to love you to forever. Love and I'm ready one more verse. One more verse. Sometimes not alone. Is that I know you leave me once again and say I'll be there. Cause I'm really sad to hear you to love you to yeah, we getting all this. We getting all this. We getting that bridge too. Oh, song of the week, Tevin Campbell. I'm ready. This is why I want y'all to listen to the words. This is why I want y'all to listen to it. This is why we're gonna listen to it. Because as you all know, Life According to Cree, and if you don't know, Life According to Cree is my social media platform where the LYF actually is in place. Say actually stands for Love Yourself First. Um, it's a familiar acronym. It's not like it's something that I created out of thin air. It's not as if it's something that um is specifically was dropped out of the sky to me. But one thing that I learned about and why I do a song of the week every week is because, and most of the time they're love songs. And I know that people would probably say to themselves, well, why is she always doing a love song? Because like a lot of times her content or her episode or the guest she has, they're not talking about necessarily just love and relationships. But the reason that there is a love song, specifically an R&B song, the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, R&B song is because the type of love that is expressed in the songs that I share is the type of love where they may be singing to someone else, or the song was written to be sung to the opposite sex or to some or the same sex, or someone that you care deeply, just someone that you care deeply about. And with this platform and why I encourage romance, relationships, marriage, etc. If you're not in that place, or if that's a place where you want to be, the very first thing that you have to learn how to do is love yourself first. You got to be ready. You have to be ready. You have to be ready. Before you start preparing yourself to be a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a life partner, a wife, a husband, you have to get yourself ready to live your own life. You have to get to a place where you're comfortable with yourself. You know yourself. All of the energy that we put into other people, getting to know them, their likes, their dislikes, taking our time, feeling them out. The first person you need to do that with is you. But I guess, and that's a word within itself. This is week 3 of National Black Business Month. It is also the anniversary week of my podcast. This is the week. August 15th was the day that I recorded my very first episode. My very first episode of LYF According to Cree, the podcast. The title of that was Who Wants to Be a Celebrity Anyway? And yeah, different curtains, different colors. The lace front was lacing. And just me at this desk doing what I do every day and doing what I do. This is where I'm at when I'm making my living. Both, my actual career and my passion, which is this platform. And that was the week of August. That was August, the 3rd week of August of 2022. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Cree Cole, also known as Crystal Coleman. And I actually started this platform back in 2019. Originally, it was a print blog. And it was birthed because for years, my friends and my family told me, they used to say that I tweeted on Facebook. And basically, it was whatever was on my mind, whatever I was thinking, whatever I was posting on social media, whether it was some type of national, thing going on in just with celebrities, politics, whomever, whatever. I was putting it on social media, and then, and also saying, and that was, about since social media began. So in 2019, I decided to start my print blog, LYF According to Cree, and I will post things weekly, etc. Share them on my social media platforms. It started taking more of a form of self-help, encouragement, self-evaluation, all the basic things that go into self-love. And 2019 was also the beginning of my healing journey. I know I mentioned it a couple of times before. From 2013 up until 2018, I was in a live-in serious relationship that ended in 2018. February of 2018. Yeah, February 2018, 4 days before Valentine's Day. On February 10th, my life changed, where I thought I had spent what I thought I had spent putting energy, time, blood, sweat, tears into for the 5 years prior to that, it ended. And it didn't end in some catastrophic, violent way or anything like that. It was nowhere near that. Nowhere near. But it hurt. And what I realized at that point is that I was going to need to, number one, figure out who I was without this person. Because number one, I wasn't the person that I was before the relationship. I mean, 5 years that went by. I was 32 when we got together. I was 37 when we broke up. So I was not the girl that was just playing around in her early 30s. I'm now in my late 30s. So I had to figure out who I was. I needed to figure out who I wanted to be. You know, the standard things that we want to check off our box as soon as we have a relationship, as soon as we get out of a relationship, and it hurts. A lot of they make this joke on social media now where they say like, oh, you can be with a female for X amount of time, and then as soon as y'all break up, then she levels up. And it's not so much of a matter of leveling up. A lot of times, though, the things that we do post breakup are things that we've always wanted to do. Dreams, aspirations that we always had. But one thing about someone who is seriously committed to their relationship and their partner, you want balance. We try to provide balance. I can speak from a woman's point of view better than, a man's point of view because I've never dated women. But I know as a woman, I've always wanted to provide balance. If it was tumultuous times and things like that, the extra energy that I had, I put into my mate rather than applying that to me. And in a relationship where there is balance, that's what you're supposed to do, to be honest. Like, you don't go off and if you see that person lacking or that person needing, you don't go the extra energy that you have and the extra drive that you have. If that's someone you're in love with, the first thing you don't think to do is go put that energy into starting a multi-million-dollar business. That extra energy that you got, you want to put that into your mate. You use it to inspire, you use it to encourage, etc. And taking the fact that ever since I was a teenager, I played high school sports, things like that, high school team sports. And I've always been, I've always been empathic. I've always cared deeply for people. People are my passion. And I always tell people that. I've always told people are my passion. What drew me more to team sports, as a former basketball player, and then to actually become a coach, was my own experiences as a teenage high school basketball player with that type of warmth and that type of group around me, with those types of role models that I had, the type of encouragement that I received during that time, was a big push in me wanting to be a coach. My love of the sport, of course, and me wanting to be that median between friend, parents, for a lot of kids, because I'm not going to do the whole side story about, I just want to be that person that stands in the gap. But I want to be that person that stands in the gap, that stood in the gap when, parents may not understand, friends might not understand, cousins, aunties, uncles, hell, teammates may not understand. I want to be that person that those girls could come to, and I could stand in the gap for them and be that listening ear that they needed. Because I know that when I was in high school, middle school, high school, even in my early 20s, that's something that I needed. So that took me from loving being a player to loving being a coach. And when the opportunity for me to coach ended at my alma mater, my high school alma mater, I didn't have a desire to coach actual basketball anymore, but I still had my desire for people. I still had my desire to positively influence. I still had my desire to intermingle and reach out to people, live, laugh, learn from others. Because I can tell you, me being in the midst of middle to high school girls, always kept my world open. Like, there's some people that are my age and they're like, they once you turn over 40, I've realized people tend to, oh, now you're 40, so you're supposed to da 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 da. Let me tell you something. When you work with children, preteens, teens, etc., young, really young adults, it keeps you worldly. It's not a matter of wanting to be young or wanting to be popular or keep up with the popular things. It just is a way of life for you, because those are things, being in the present are things that keep you relevant outside of the X's and O's of the sport that you're coaching. And with LYF According to Cree, with the platform itself, that's one of the things that I brought along with me from being an actual athletics coach. Staying relevant, keeping myself, making sure that I keep myself present in the present day, in the present time. Yeah, I hear a lot of people talk about going back to the way things were with this, that, and the other. But to be honest, you can live live the lifestyle that people lived in during a total a lifespan or a time frame. You can choose to hold on to that type of lifestyle, but the world doesn't stop spinning. Progress keeps moving forward. The world keeps growing. How we communicate, the means of communication, the information that's shared, and blogging in print is still very much relevant. Still very much relevant, and will always be relevant, because there are some people that's what they prefer. But on last year, well, actually in 2021 is when I first said, okay, I have to get me a social media presence. I'm going to have to let people see my face. Not just with the random pictures that I post, but I'm going to be serious about creating a visual platform to get my messages across, to interact with others, to learn more about other people, how they live, different regions and things like that. Because one of the things that I've learned is that how somebody does something in the Southeast is not the way they do it in the Northeast, ain't the way they do it in the Midwest, ain't the way they do it out on the West Coast, over in the Southwest. There's always different twists. And that's something that I was exposed to growing up as a military brat, but it's still very much relevant today. I've been adulting for 24 years. And social media, whether people like it or not, is the easiest way for us to cross information, for us to share information, and to be, relevant throughout not only our own areas, but areas throughout the country, throughout the world. So I spent all of 2021 on paper. I got another white one that I call my dream books, writing out how this was gonna go, how I was gonna make this happen. Googling how much it costs to do this, how much it costs to do that. I remember my first purchase was actually in 2021, even though I didn't record a single episode of LYF According to Cree, the podcast, until 2022, August 2022. I actually, the way that I said I was going to start making videos. I was going to get a TikTok account. I didn't have a TikTok account. I didn't have one. I had Facebook, I had Twitter, and I had Instagram. And I was not an avid Twitter user. And with the person who owns it now and the way that they behave and all that kind of stuff, like, I actually deleted the app. As soon as I went into my phone and my cell phone, like, updated apps, and I saw that the little Tweety bird was no longer the Twitter symbol, I was done. I deleted the app completely. Downloaded Threads, Since I already had Instagram, it was very easy, and that's what it's gonna be. But I said, okay, first things first, you're gonna have to get on all the platforms. Check, got on all the platforms. I already had the information, everything, in order to get my business license, in order to get my LLC, in order to get myself accredited with the state that I'm in. I'd already had all that stuff, and I already had the name of the business, all of that. I incorporated it. I got that down on paper. I got that down in print. And that I hadn't shot anything. I hadn't made any major announcements about, oh, I'm about to do a podcast. None of that. I got all of that done first. I decided what type of podcast I wanted to have. I started buying equipment. They were like, oh, I'm saying, oh, if you want to shoot videos, get you some ring lights. Same ring lights, same lighting I'm still using. You're gonna need a microphone. You're gonna need a microphone. I mean, I use my microphone. I don't use my microphone. It just all depends. And my cell phone, which at the time when I recorded my first podcast, I had an iPhone 11. An iPhone 11. So that episode, Who Wants to Be a Celebrity Anyway, was recorded with one ring light, a microphone, and an iPhone. Now, since then, I have, upgraded some things. I have changed some things. I've learned some things. I've learned what I actually need versus what's cool. I got a few more things. I got some things that I want to go and purchase. But also in 2021, I said, there's some things I'm going to need. I'm going to need some photographs. I had the idea that I wanted to have apparel at that time. At that time, my very first apparel line that I designed was called One Accord. And it was called One Accord. The Accord has 2 C's, Cree. And One Accord apparel, the brand itself encompassed for me what I wanted to project out into the world, which was whether it was with relationships, family, socially, politically, all of us just being on one accord, being able to find compromise and things like that, which is still one of my passions that has not changed. But that was my first apparel line. So when I created my first website, and everything that I have done has been, I have completely self-taught myself. Like I put in a video earlier this week, my stuff may not be polished. It might not be that professional, but what it definitely is unapologetically Cree. Speaking of Cree, for the people that know me, you know that my government name is Crystal. You know that my government last name is Coleman. The name Cree, God rest her soul, my grandmother and my very much living, active, and loving life aunt, my mom's middle sister, have always called me Cree. No one else in the family called me Cree. It wasn't a nickname that was, thrown around. But for those two, that has always been my name. I don't remember my grandmother ever calling me Crystal. Chrissy, Chris, Cree, but never Crystal. And she named me. Which is the wild part. It's a name that she picked out. But that's where the Cree comes from. Because I get a lot of questions like, well, where you get Cree from? Like, I guess they could understand the Cole, because my last name is Cole. My legal last name is Coleman. So they were like, oh, okay, she took the M-A-N off. But with the Cree, they were lost. It also, when I was about 13 years old, I And I was 13 during the 90s, and that's when Living Single, not Living Single, Jesus, A Different World came on after the Cosby Show. It used to come on NBC, on regular TV. It was a sitcom. Y'all probably have seen the clips, but the Cosby Show came on at 8 o'clock. A Different World came on at 8:30, immediately following. And on the show was a character named Freddie. Freddie was my favorite character. If you don't know who Freddie is, Different World, whatever, go out there on your platforms that y'all watch TV on, because I'm old school. I still got satellite. But, whichever one Different World show on, go out there and watch it. My favorite character was Freddie. Freddie's real name was Cree Summers. It's Cree Summers, because she's saying was like she's still here. Cree Summers. My favorite cartoon as a kid, one of my favorite cartoons in my top 5 was Inspector Gadget. If you don't know what that is, if you weren't born in the early 80s, you don't know what that is. But you can go out there and Google that too. It was Inspector Gadget. It was about pretty much a MacGyver type investigator guy who had a son named Penny. And Cree Summers, as a kid, did the voiceover for Penny. Just the way stuff could have. When I found that out, and she was my favorite character on the show, and then my mom and my grandma calling me Cree was perfectly okay. And check that. Oh, the epiphany. Check that here 40 years later. Well, 20-something years, 30-something years later. Anywho, but that is where the name Cree comes from. And I don't know if I let anybody else call me that, family-wise. But if you see me in my podcaster business, Life According to Cree mode, just say the name. Just say the name. Like, you don't get cool points for calling me Crystal. Like, it don't make you look any more, in tune with what's going on at that moment. You can address me. But that's how the name came to be. That's how the name Life According to Cree came to be. And Life According to Cree sounds better than Life According to Crystal. Let's be real. But I built my website. I had my podcast. I had my written blog going to my website. I had an online store called the LYF Shop, which is still open, even with the rebrand. And that life was LYFE. LIFE was the life was LIFE. And between the world shutting down, by the time it was time for us to come out of lockdown, one thing I can say that is that being on my healing journey during lockdown for COVID probably helped me more than anything. It turned off a lot of the background noise that we tend to hear when we go through things and we're trying to be better, get better, when we're trying to figure things out. It cut out a lot of the background noise. It forced me to have to be still. It forced me to have to listen to hear the voice inside of me rather than listening to react to the voice speaking inside of me. And once I realized that, and I became more in tune with who I am, and I learned how to think as I spoke, because that was one of my things. I never, people will tell you, you speak before you think. I was that kid. I was that woman. And I used to tell people, no, that's not the case. I thought about what I said as I said it. And I meant to say it. And one thing that I learned over my healing journey is that that time was not needed to listen to react. It was God was trying to tell me I needed to listen to discern. I needed to listen to the voice inside of me. And that's what I did. And when I did that, when we started to, since I did that work and I had made that revelation, by the time it was time for us to come out of lockdown, I had learned a very, very valuable lesson. And I was really, really big on self-love. And that is where the rebrand began. Because like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm watching all these podcasts. I watched all this stuff through the pandemic. I'm gonna do a podcast. I'm gonna the written blogs. People don't read no more. I'm gonna do a podcast and loving yourself. Make sure that me reminding myself about loving myself. You know, I would ask myself questions. If would I do this? If I love myself, should I do this? Is what I'm doing real? Is what I'm doing showing love to me? Or is it just more me showing love to others? You know, if you want love, I feel like you have to already have it. I feel like love from partners, and I probably said it before, I feel like love from partners should be an enhancement in addition to. I think it should make the love that you have for yourself stronger. I don't think that it should deplete it or diminish it. And with that being my thing about I'm loving myself, you know, doing things to show love to myself in order to encourage myself. And I'm saying you got to love yourself first. And then it dawned on me, love yourself first, LYF, life. Loving yourself is having the ability to breathe life into yourself. Because unfortunately, not everyone is always available or able to be available in the way that we need or the way that we want all the time. Having the ability to breathe life back into your own dead situations in order to stop and make that choice and evaluate the situation. So that's how the rebrand began, and loving yourself first, according to Cree, was branded. I came up with my logo, all that good stuff. And I went into a complete rebrand because I said, before I say that I'm doing anything, it is going to be done. Before I announce I'm doing this, because I ain't gonna lie to you, being a business owner, with it being Black Business Month, I can tell you, being a small business owner, a self-marketing, self-promoting, self-designing, self-producing, self-writing. Yeah, I do my own lighting. But shout out to my own boy, old Scott, who actually gave me the foundation for my podcast. He actually shot my first podcast episode for me. With the lights, the cameras, the editing. He did my first few episodes, and he gave me the foundation. Platforms to use in order to record it. Tools in order to make me look like me, even with no makeup. But when you're doing everything yourself and you're like, yeah, I've been thinking about this and I want to do this and I want to do that. Let me tell you something. The people who are making moves gonna check you about it if they don't see it. And the people who don't do nothing gonna check you about it because they heard you say it. That's one thing I learned before my rebrand. And I said that with the rebrand, my number one goal was to be consistent. It was to be consistent. And once I had settled on what I wanted it to look like, what I wanted it to sound like, which I wanted it to sound and feel like me. Because I mean, I people say I am my brand, but I literally am my brand. And when I was thinking about my rebrand, I was like, you know what? I see this person doing this and I see that person doing that, but the only way I'm gonna do this and be consistent is if I'm me. The platform's LYF According to Cree. And it probably was the smartest thing I've done was come up with my name, because whatever I want to talk about that is a part of life, I have provided myself, thank you, Lord, with the platform in order to do so. If I want to talk about the alien story, I can, because we're just talking about LYF According to Cree. With my social media platforms. My birthday is January 20th. I kick off Aquarius season. Check this out. I bought this from the TikTok shop. Don't know if y'all can see it. I'll link it. One thing about Aquarius is we're intelligent. We're this, we're that, we're go-getters, we're blah, 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 blah. We are also inconsistent. As soon as we get a new idea, that old idea, one of the things that I had to learn during my healing journey is just because you have a new idea doesn't mean that you have to abandon the old. So I started off by creating by shooting my podcast, putting that out there. I had already started to build my social media presence with a rebrand, because you have to have content. You have to have content, and creating content is a job. Even if you use content that you just recorded for the sake of recording and you make it into content for social media, then making it into content for social media is a part of your job. So I figured out a way to make my content. I said I need to stay consistent, and one of the ways I wanted to stay consistent was by sharing specific parts of me. My Aquarius zodiac is one of those things. I've always been a zodiac junkie. Y'all probably don't remember Cosmopolitan magazine either. It's still on the shelves, but I used to like to get the Cosmopolitan magazine because it always had horoscopes for the month. I used to love it. And so one of my consistent series on social media is oh Jesus, is Random Thoughts of an Aquarius Woman, because I pride myself on the validity of all of my random thoughts. Now, my random thoughts may not be relevant at that moment, but trust and believe, any random thought that I've had, eventually, yeah, it stops being so random. I also, because there are so many different topics that come up via social media that everyone's talking about. I also started a series, Put Me in Coach. I.e., if you've ever been a coach or dealt with kids or adults in the realm of sports, you always gonna have a player that's watching and wants to get in. They're on the bench, but they want to get in. Put Me in Coach is a series where I stitch or attach video or attach specific parts of videos, and then I give my take on what I saw. Because I want to get in too. I want to get in the conversation. I want to get in the game. Put me in, coach. And also, that is a shout out to one of my basketball babies. She doesn't realize it. She doesn't know it. But one of my basketball babies, when she first joined varsity back in 2011, Might have been 2011. She was on the bench. She was a good player, but she was on the bench. She was young, etc. And she used to, the way that our coaching staff worked, the head coach and the assistant, the two head assistant coaches sat at the top of the bench. The girl sat in the middle, and me and the other assistant coach sat at the end of the bench. That way, no girls could go walk, players couldn't go walk off. Y'all seen kids do it. Go walk out to the end of the bench and then don't pay the grown people no attention. Nah, you surrounded by grown people. But one of the players, because she was a sixth man, she played behind another player, and she would be sitting down at the end of the bench. And every time the player that she subbed in for would do something or not do something, she'd be like, "Man, coach, put me in, coach." Like, she doesn't even know. I'm gonna let her know that probably tomorrow or later on tonight. But the term itself was derived from my interactions with her. And like I said, all the different videos and stuff, I just give I give the Cree code sake on whatever that is. It may be specifically for that video. It may be something that sparked thought in a totally different direction. But that's why I said you got to follow me. But it's also another way that I reach out to people, and through me doing that through those platforms, it actually opened up an opportunity for me to become a life coach. And how that actually began here in 2023. And through my social media platforms and me giving out advice, my Random Thoughts of an Aquarius Woman, along with the Put Me in Coach series, I had people reaching out to me asking me, was I a life coach? And if I was a life coach, why wasn't I advertising it? Or they would love to talk to me more, or they love my takes on things and then ask me personal questions directly for them. So that sparked me to want to, and that was mid 2022, to actually get myself certified, find out what I need to do to be certified to be a life coach, and then possibly offer those services. And July 2023, it was added to my website. I am an AIPCC certified life coach, nationwide. It's a national certification. And like I like to explain to people during their intake, like the initial consultation, is that coaches are not therapists. I make sure that I put that on my website. Website, and I will say life coaches are not therapists. Life coaches meet you where you are, and then you and that life coach work together to get to where you want to be. A therapist does that same thing, but after you all delve into the why, what and how you got to where you are. I've always, since I started my podcast, I make sure my end credits actually includes links that you can use in order to reach a therapist in your area. I am a huge champion of mental health awareness and getting help, professional help if need be. I had my first actual link up with a mental health professional November of 2021. A lot of stuff happening, life be life, and at some point I'm going to share that part of Cree's life. I can't share it until I get to where I need to be with it. Because like I said, I'm on a healing journey. And one thing about it, when you get healed from one thing, the journey does not end, because if something else comes up, those tools that you learn to heal from that other one, you're going to have to apply them again. And that's the other part. That's another facet of life coaching. So on my website, there's also links to actually book sessions with me for life coaching. They are virtual. They are all virtual. So you can be anywhere. You can be anywhere. So like, if I just say right now, almost over halfway through my podcast, I am a social media content creator. I am a podcast host, and I am also a nationally certified life coach. We're bound by the same rules as therapists. The repercussions aren't identical, but they are very much similar. And I hope to continue to broaden my education. That's not something that can be self-taught. You can have that in you, that nurturing spirit, that spirit of discernment, that thing that makes you, relatable to everybody, that puts people in comfortable spaces around you. But there's no way around the education of it. I mean, you can go around the education of it, but don't go around the education of it for anybody who's interested in sharing themselves in that way. Like I said, I started life coaching in July. That's when I started advertising it. And I didn't really advertise it. I would just post the links to the link to book on my social media platforms. And by the end of July, I had 3 clients. And it is so wonderful because see, it's not even, some people do things in order to make themselves feel good or feel greater. There's nothing greater to me than other people being happy. It's nothing better. It's nothing better. And there's always room to learn and to grow as a person. Life coaching helps everyone grow as a person. Not only the person that you're working with, but the person that's being worked on, or the person that's doing the work. So that's been great for me, to be able to put in the time and effort in order to get certifications that I need in order to do it. Because I mean, I've always been a life coach. I've been a life coach since my teens. But now you can Google me. But that's also a part of my website. And I briefly mentioned like me branding and having an apparel line. And with my rebrand to LYF, Loving Yourself First According to Cree, the Life Shop actually took on a new form. I mean, same location, just a change in the name. Just a change in the name. But the Life Shop actually is winter, spring, summer, fall apparel, merchandise, shirts, pants, cups, cell phone cases, all, different motivational t-shirts, all under the Life According to Cree brand, with Loving Yourself First. So that is available. I actually designed it all myself. I come up with all of the prints myself. I transfer them. I do it all online. I do not like print shirts. I don't know if y'all can notice or not, but there ain't no space. I ain't got no space for that. I don't got it. But I do work with an awesome United States based distributor. They're actually right in Charlotte, North Carolina, less than 2.5 hours from me. I work with an awesome distributor who does that for me. And Life the brand is all about loving yourself. Every single item, every single slogan is a daily affirmation, a living, breathing, wearable, walking affirmation, daily affirmation. It's affirmation clothing. That's all the line is about. Like I said, I have spring, summer, fall winter items. I'm in the great state of South Carolina where we only have 2 seasons. So fall is on its way technically. And we're gonna have a big fall drop. There will be a photo shoot. There will be full promo by me. So be on the lookout for that. So let me see. I am a blogger, a podcaster, a life coach, who also merchandise, um, designs and sells merchandise for the platform. Um, I had the opportunity to just recently, well, on last week, participate with the PD Black Expo here in Florence, South Carolina. I hosted an event where I was able to broadcast my podcast live. Please go out to YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube page, because that is where Life According to Cree the podcast is uploaded weekly. It's every Thursday. I air at 7:30 with my different topics, with my different guests. Just so happens this month is National Black Business Month. So I've had business owners on and we've been discussing, owning business and how that's relatable to the people around us, etc., our relationships and whatnot. I have awesome guests on schedule for next week. But make sure you check that out, because with the expo this past weekend, and me having my broadcast and my podcast live, I actually got to interview a wonderful woman who I immediately said, "Oh my God, you are my new mentor," because her energy and her vibe was so great. Miss Yvonne Young, people call her dearingly Miss Yvonne. Go check that episode out. It's the standard length of an episode. We did it right there at the PD Black Expo Network Shopping Market. I will be hosting my podcast from the PD Black Expo Shopping Market the rest of this month. That gets this weekend, and then there's 2 more weekends in this month. Make sure you go and follow them on social media for the dates and the locations where the network shopping market will be, which was awesome for me. Like by Monday, y'all go back and look at it on Facebook or whatever social media platform you follow me on. But by Monday, I was overwhelmed because, like I said on my video, I remember going into Francis Marion University orientation in July of 1999, and went to orientation, did all this stuff, got all my stuff, went to the financial aid office, found out what was necessary in order for me to start classes financially. My family was in a transition. They had just moved, my family had just moved to South Carolina. It wasn't gonna happen for me right then. I mean, now a degree and 2 certifications into life. But I always wanted to be a mass communications major because I wanted to be a news broadcaster. I wanted to be a news broadcaster, and I wanted to write books. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to write for the newspaper. I wanted to publish my own books. I always wrote poetry as a child. I wanted to be published. I was actually published the first time when I was in 11th grade. How I met one of my best friends, has been my best friend for over 20-something years. We both went to a writers conference in Columbia, South Carolina, like great things. But for me to have those dreams and aspirations, for them to be put on hold, for me to not actually follow that path and to still be a part of media, ain't nothing but God. Ain't nothing but God. Like I said, I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a writer, because writing is something that you don't need a degree for. And guess what? In 2023, you don't need a degree in order to be in order to be an author either. Which brings me to my next thing. I am also a self-published author, and they're all over my social media, but I just released These are my first physical copies in my hand, but they are online on Amazon. My 6-month daily planner and my shadow work journal, the scratch book. It's called the scratch book because sometimes you got to start at scratch. Say if you go and you check it out on my social media with the scratch book, it actually gives you, starts off with a message from me. That's the way that it begins. It starts off with your top 10, filling those in. You'll have to get it in order to know what I'm talking about. And then it goes through, if you're going on a healing journey, let me tell you something. There is, whether you use it weekly or daily, there is a question to be answered each day. And then there are also a place to put your date, your additional thoughts. I know y'all can barely see it, but go to my social media, go to LYF According to Cree.org, go to LYF According to Cree on my social media network. I uploaded a video. They're available on Amazon each day, each week. This is set up by weeks. This is set up by days. The daily planner, daily planner. I also have 2 other books on Amazon that I have not yet received physically. Amazon is sending them to me, which is an interactive book on forgiveness called Live Your Life, and then a self-awareness dating handbook called well, glory Jesus. Take a step first. Called Love of Your Life, which is, y'all guessed it yourself. But it did say both books are very much interactive. Both books, including these 2 journals, are part of what is called the Life Work series, available on Amazon. You can go to my social media links and check it out. If you type in on your Amazon Life Works series, all of the publications will come up. Now, I'm also a published author, and one of the questions I've been asking my guests so far this month is like, what are your goals going forward? Like, if you had to write out a list of dreams for where you want your business to go, where would you want it to go? And I can say, I want my platform to grow. I want the awareness of those who have access or who have accessed my platform to grow. I want each individual person that my voice and my likeness touches to be affected, not necessarily by me, but by what's being delivered through me. That's what I want. If that can happen, I know a lot of people get hung up on likes and comments and views and stuff like that. And I'm like likes and comments and shares. And I'm gonna tell you, those things are important if you want to make a coin. Strictly from social media. If that's how you want to, if you want to get a coin that way, those things are important. But for me and my platform and what I want to put out into the world, it's the views for me. It's the views. I don't care if 2 people like my post. If 2 people saw my post, but 15.3 thousand people watched my video, those are 15.3 thousand people I may never physically meet. But I know that they received what was delivered through me. And that's all I need. That's really all I need. So if I had to, if I had to name anything that I want growth. I want growth for me. I want growth for those who I encounter on a daily, monthly, weekly basis. And whatever comes from that comes from that. Because I can tell you, yeah, I get online and talking about helping people, but every time I sit myself in front of here, it helps me. It helps my social anxiety. It helps my sometimes looming depression. I can be transparent. Sometimes I may not feel that pretty. Sometimes I may not feel that great. Sometimes I may not feel that smart. Sometimes I may feel all those things all at once and be completely overwhelmed. And this is an outlet. So if I'm going to leave you with anything on this evening, other than making sure that you go to www.LYF According to Cree, that is LYF ACCORDING 2 Cree CRE.org for access to everything that I talked about, because all things Cree are on this site. If you like what you see, and you got an event, and you want me to come tell my story and tell some of the people their story too, some of your guests their story too, book me. That can also be done at LYFaccordingtocree.org, or through any of my social media platforms. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my belly, from the tip of my toenails to the ends of my hair follicles. I want to thank y'all for tuning in with me each week and rocking with me, because where I go, you go. So I thank you. I thank you. And it's been 1 year. If you ain't had a drink, that one was for you. Oh, and that one there, that one was for me. But make sure if you feel as if you need someone to talk to, feel free to get in contact with me on any of my links. Make sure you stay on to the end credits. On the end credits, there is information on how to find a licensed therapist in your area. Your mental health is just as important as your physical health. You got to start somewhere. Thank you and good night. See you next week. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Check me out. Check me out. Check out the rest of and make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube page. Subscribe. It'll send you notifications. You don't have to wait to see if it pops up. If I upload my podcast episode to Facebook, if you subscribe on your YouTube, it'll send you a notification, baby. It's 2023. You got a cell phone. There's no excuses. Love y'all. Good night. Lord. Good night again. See y'all next week.